everyone, just a quick note before we start. Today's episode of Separate Bathrooms contains discussion of miscarriage. If this topic raises any issues for you, we've included links and phone numbers for support in the description of this episode. If this doesn't feel safe for you to listen to right now, you can skip this episode and join us again next week.
But it brought us closer together.
Yeah.
A lot of it can bring you further away from each other as well at times, and we're very aware of that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to speak about things. Tahyna does. So I think we learned an awful lot about each other through that experience as well, because I look back at it now and it still kills me that I never grieved the loss of our first child either.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast, the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. My name's Daddo.
I'm Brahe-Daddo. I've been married to Daddo for 31 years.
Is it going to be 32 in a hot second?
Yeah, correct. There you go. Yeah, 1991.
Yes.
No, so that's 31.
It's
It's
going to
2022 and we were married in 1991.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're coming up. We've been married 30 years.
Oh, because we had our 30th last year. That's when we went back to the hotel.
There you go.
That we got, yeah, I remember.
Now, our guests today have not been married as long as we have. They are busy. For starters, they are parents of 3 children under 10.
That's going to make you busy. She, the wife, is a working writer, producer, director, and actress.
He shows up 5 days a week every morning to present a live TV show.
We've been chasing these two for a while because we knew that they would be a good chat. So please welcome Tristan MacManus and Tahyna, his beautiful wife. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Thanks for having us.
Can't wait.
Well, we'll jump right in then, Tahyna. Well, you're a girl from Cronulla. Mm-hmm. Yep. You've acted for the big screen, you've directed, you're a writer, you're a producer. How did you come to meet this fella, a dancer and a very successful one, I might add, from Ireland?
I know. Well, I never thought I would end up with an Irishman, I'll tell you that much. But we met in Los Angeles through a mutual friend of ours, actually, who was a dancer. And she had danced with Tristan while he was dancing on the West End. Was that right?
Yeah.
And we were both single, and it was a good girlfriend of mine and another guy, and they were chatting and said, we have 2 single people that we know, and we had a dinner and the rest is history, as they say.
Straight away? Spark straight away?
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I love that.
we weren't expecting it, to be honest with you. Like Tahyna said, I was working in the West End. I was doing Dirty Dancing there, and there's loads of Aussies over there.
Yeah.
And I always kind of gravitate to them. And I was a bit wild back then as well. So
A bit wild.
so then later on, I'd moved over to LA to do Dancing with the Stars, and not long after that, I don't think it was Amy and Luke had moved over, who I'd met in London, and they moved over, and then we were trying to get together, we kind of feeling out each other's mates and whatnot, and they took us along to a dinner in that Thai restaurant, and we sat down there. I don't usually chat to people. I love being around people. I chat for them for a little bit and I'll move on. But no, we spoke for the night, didn't we? And it kind of worked out all right.
Yeah, you threw a net over the hummingbird.
That's it, yeah. Well, I rang my man that night.
Actually, I've never heard that one.
We got pretty loose that night, to be honest with you. And I remember, well, I don't remember, but I was told, I rang my mum that night and she goes...
It's full of whiskey is what he means.
Yeah. And she called me, she goes, "Did you have a good night last night?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Were you drunk?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I was very drunk, I was." And she got real disappointed. I was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "You've seen me drunk before, you've heard me drunk before." She goes, No, you said you met this girl the other night and you really liked her, you think she might be the one." And it turned out that it was.
Where in Los Angeles did you meet, and how long did the coming together? Take us through that sort of.
We met in West Hollywood, so that's where we were both based.
WeHo.
Oh yeah, in WeHo, the thick of it, and that's. I mean, I guess that's for all the expats. We're all kind of there.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of in and out. So in a town like LA, and we had met in January, and then I think by February it was on.
full
It was
in then,
Like a month later, 3 weeks later.
Oh, sorry. Do you mean like boyfriend and girlfriend, or like getting married, or
Well, your boyfriend and girlfriend after, I guess, pretty soon.
pretty
like you
soon
just said,
after?
February.
Yeah, and then we got engaged 2 years later.
Yeah.
We got
over
engaged
here.
in Sydney 2 years later, and we had travelled so much and done so much in that 2 years, primarily through LA, and Tristan with his dancing toured through the States and through the UK. Yeah, so that was kind of the plan.
It was all pretty
really.
soon. Like I
Yeah.
said, we kind of, you know yourself when you meet someone, you kind of
Yeah.
click. You know, there was a lot of stuff that we had in common, but more importantly, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't have in common, and we were interested in each other that way.
Yeah, right.
So I think, like I said, I'm an open book when it comes to things, and I don't kind of suffer fools, you know, so we just clicked from the off. And then it
Yeah.
was kind of like, right, this is going to happen. Do you
I
want
think we
to
also
do it
had
now, or
our
do you want
fair
to wait a
share
little bit?
of like dating disasters before as well, maybe. That like, you know, when you meet someone who, and I have always said this, like Tristan was always, I didn't believe him for the longest time when he said he was a ballroom dancer, because he walked in and he's got all these tattoos and he's like drinking whiskey, and I just didn't picture like a Latin ballroom dancer. So, you know, I found that so interesting when I would go and watch him dance and perform. It was like, I found that really interesting. And I guess for me, when, you know, I find passion really attractive. So like when he was, you know, doing his thing and into it, like, it was just like, oh gosh, like who's this guy, you know?
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting about him. And I think maybe when you met me, I was sort of really in the thick of, you know, moving into directing and producing. So
Yeah, it was the same. Like I said, we kind of had passions that kind of, I suppose, melted in together. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what it is. You kind of you want to meet interesting people, and interesting people who aren't looking for anything from each other. And certainly that was my experience of when I met to Los Angeles first. You kind of don't really know where you're going to fall, like in terms of people, because
You can fall a long way
you
in
can fall
LA.
certainly a long way, yeah. And
Seen
then
that
these
happen.
kind of, you don't know whether, I mean, I guess it's life in general, isn't it? You don't know how much you want to open up to people or not, because
Yeah.
you don't know how it's going to be used. And I had a lot of experiences like that of Los Angeles when I met
Yeah.
there first. So I think certainly our friends, knowing a friend of there, knowing that there was going to be a friend of theirs was always going to be good enough for us, because we know what type of characters they are, and then you're just kind of going, right, is this going to last or is it not? And
I can't believe you guys were there for 25 years. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
So are we.
Years. We actually tipped it at one point where we'd been in America more than Australia, which was really weird.
Wow.
Where I was like, holy cow, we've lived in one country, another country than our home country longer.
Wow.
That was a weird thing. And then there was one point we were like, we're done. We won't be moving back to Australia.
right.
I mean, our kids are American, and,
Yeah.
and we weren't going to do it. And then, I don't know, it was that realization probably around 2015, 2016, when it was like our parents were not, and they don't get any younger,
Yeah.
you know, and we missed them, and our kids didn't really, you know, I'd get jealous. I'd come back here and I'd see my nephews and nieces with their grandparents,
Yeah.
you know, and having such a great time. And I'm like, I want my kids to have that.
Yeah, and
too.
it's different chapters of life too, I suppose, where you kind of look at the next chapter, and when you certainly have young kids and you're going through that, and then you kind of get out of that, and then it's what's the next chapter. So that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And it's amazing too how you slide into things. You're not even, you know, you just go, oh, that's the norm. You know, and you could look back 2 years later and go, how did we get here? You know,
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
yeah,
It's that sense of belonging, I suppose, that you can kind of get as well.
Indeed.
You don't expect, like, certainly for me in Los Angeles was always going to be temporary for me, no matter how successful
Yes.
or not. I always knew, right, I'm in there and then I'll move on and have my life after that. And I think, like I said, when you meet certain people, you'll know what impact to a degree they're going to have in your life, and you kind of go, right, well, that's the home that I'm craving, or that's the type of person
yeah.
that I want to be with.
Was it hard for you to come to Australia?
No, not at all. Absolutely not at all. No, I mean, soppy as it might sound, I would have went anywhere with Tahyna, to be honest with you, when I knew that's what it was. And again, I for a long time, again, what a lot of people might seem as being successful, it never made me happy. And it was just something that I did, and to a
You're
degree.
talking about dancing.
Yeah,
right.
and being there and being amongst that.
Yeah.
I kind of, a lot of stuff that I do, similar to the way I dress, I just want to, they're just getting on with stuff clothes, you know what I mean? Or is it getting along with stuff thing? There was a passion there because you have a passion within yourself to put towards whatever it is that you're doing at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was always temporary for me, and I loved this country as soon as I came here.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was down to Tahyna, a lot of that was down to her lifestyle and her stories of what here was.
Yes.
My favorite my favourite, when I brought Tristan to Cronulla in particular, and we have like so many footy fields, and there's one particular footy field when you drive home from the airport, and Tristan was like, this is just the most beautiful field I've ever seen, and it's not that great.
And you were like, I got drunk at that field when I was 16 with all my mates.
And
That was my new home.
And in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to love, wait till we take him down to the beach. Like, that's when he's going, like, his mind will just explode.
Yeah.
So I was so fortunate that, he did love it here, because I think, of course, that was a fear. Like, I always knew I wanted to be back here. So it obviously helped that he loved it here.
So your wedding day,
Yep.
we actually had a couple in who were principal dancers at the Australian Ballet, and they had choreographed a dance for their wedding day, but he threw his back out the day before.
Oh, no.
He was able to kind of muddle through, but he couldn't do this lift, apparently.
Oh, no.
Did you guys have a dance for your wedding day?
Well, was like a little touchy subject because
whoops.
no, because
We like touchy subjects.
We like touchy
We're in the
subjects.
bathroom. You can do as much touching as you want.
Of course, so I am not a dancer by any means, but I love to dance. Like, it is my absolute passion. And Tristan is, when we are out in public, given that he has the most amazing dance skills, does not dance. Like, we'll stand back and just let everyone else dance around him. So when it came to our wedding, I was like, we are doing a routine, whether you like it or not, because this is my moment to do
Good for you.
dancing. And Tristan was like, can't we just do a normal slow dance, like the awkward, side to side sway? And I was just like, absolutely not.
Cuddle.
Yeah. So we did. I made him teach me a rumba.
Wow.
And it was just a few moves. We did it the night before because, again, our lives, we had to move our wedding date because you ended up booking another show. So everything got thrown out. So Tristan arrived home just before our wedding, and we had a day to learn the moves. But lucky I'm a very fast learner.
Oh, that's it. We did get very lucky. Yeah, that's what it was. It was kind of, I didn't even drink on my wedding day. That's how good that was.
Look at
That's
you
because
go.
I
That was
told
the
him not
deal
to.
I made. That was the compromise.
Yeah, the compromise. If he was going to dance, and I was like, okay, well, no whiskey.
He
at
did
the
a lot
wedding.
of drugs, though.
Yeah, that was it. We're going to get through this.
Unlike my husband, who I'm standing at the I walk up, he's standing at the top there, and I walk up the aisle with my dad, and I'm like pristine, and my white dress, and I walk up, and he hasn't shaven, and he stinks of whiskey, and I said, "Are you drunk?"
Me too.
And he went, "I've had a few." I was like, "Okay, let's get married."
And then, you're
And then I think our vicar had too, because he called me David.
Yes, I married David-Daddo.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yes.
It's great. I'm like, Cameron. He's like, yeah, Cameron, sorry.
And the other thing that he did, and he was like this very, we'd had meetings with him a couple of times,
pre-meetings,
and he was all about what we had to do correctly. So he called Cam David, and then he got his mic as he left and walked down the aisle. The microphone got wrapped around his ankle, so he's walking down the aisle,
Dragging a mic down the middle of the chapel.
you were like, what's that sound? And then he was like in his white gown, with the sound of the microphone dragging on the ground after him.
Oh, there's nothing better than just I feel like every wedding needs a couple of those moments to just break up the because it actually is quite an intense day. I found it
It was
really
intense that day. Jesus, it was a good one, though, wasn't it?
It was a great day, but
Because we got engaged in the National Park in Cornell. And that week that we got engaged, it was like a tin church that was there that had been closed for years apparently, and it only reopened that same week that we got engaged there. So we're like, right, well, we're going to get married there. But it was on.
it's like a 40-degree heat day
in January, isn't it? The middle of summer.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, it's January, it's the winter time.
Tristan was just dripping with sweat.
And all the Irish came over.
Yeah, all the Irish.
And they've all got their woolen suits on, sitting
melting.
in this thing on the metal roof. Oh, it was game over. And you had to close all the doors, close all the windows. It's like a full sweatbox
It
in there.
was. We nearly killed people.
And
but,
so you didn't have a beer on your wedding day, then you?
No, I know,
Oh,
because...
don't worry. He made up for it the day after. He didn't come home.
Day after, yeah.
He didn't come home?
No, because we went out the day
I
after.
had a lovely hotel to myself.
And we were having a great night. It was
That's an Irish wedding.
Australia Day, wasn't it?
Right there, all upside down.
It was on his
Australia Day.
excuse is because it was Australia Day the next day. So
No, because we're getting stuck into it the next day. I had about 18 hot dogs. It was great. It was barbecues because we don't have barbecues in Ireland. And then we got stuck into the drinks, stuck into the whiskey. And I was convinced Tahyna said, I'm going to be tired, so I'm going to go home come back whenever you're ready. That's what I heard. I don't know what she said, but I thought, she's great.
But no, that's what wives do. They say, come back when you're ready. You better be home by 5.
That's it, yeah. And she never really said, come back when you're ready before. So I was like, hey, come back when I'm ready. And I said to my mate, she said, come back when you're ready. And she's like, great. So we didn't come home that night. We came back the next day.
Next day. And
midday.
It was funny because he was out with a Scotsman and a couple of other Irishmen, and there was just
joke
all
there,
different
someone.
shades of friends. It was totally a set up a joke.
Walk into a bar,
Yeah,
never come out.
exactly. I'd never come out. But they were all shades of like various ranges of sunstroke.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, oh, this is good. So anyway, for about 48 hours after that, we just needed to get Tristan back to feeling normal, and then it was all smooth sailing.
And so, how long to kids? I know you guys have had challenges with creating your family and things like that. Did that start straight away, or did we were able to have your kids? I'm looking at names. Echo.
Yep.
Oishin. And Tag.
Tig.
Tig.
Yeah.
Gaelic spelling, it throws everyone off.
There was a footy player.
Tig and Elle. Yeah.
Correct.
We didn't name him after him.
Right. Okay. So Echo came. So can you run us through that?
We started trying for a family about a year and a half after we got married.
Talked about it quite early.
We spoke about it really early. And I actually miscarried our first pregnancy, and I was quite young, and that really hit us hard. That first loss, like, completely just rocked our whole foundation, and we ended up moving back to Ireland for a chunk of time, and then somehow in Ireland I had fallen pregnant with Echo, and thankfully, you know, she came out perfectly healthy, and so Echo was born in 2016. We're married in 2014, and so Echo changed our lives. I mean, kids she just completely changed everything for us, and that's when we decided to move to Australia as well. Just we knew that we wanted to give her everything that we loved about Australia was what we wanted to give to Echo.
I see.
And then we started talking about having another baby about a year and a half later, and we had problems. I fell pregnant, lost that pregnancy, fell pregnant again, lost that pregnancy. And during that time, that's when I actually started working on a film about miscarriage, just because I felt at the time I was, fairly young, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't think there was any resources out there. And then I fell pregnant with Oisín. And we had all sorts of complications with Oisín. So again, life just takes you on these crazy tangents, and you can't control anything. And I had diabetes, and we had a couple of health scares while I was pregnant with Oisín. And then Oisín was born, and we were quite happy, smooth sailing with 2. And I'd just been working on the doco, and I was editing, getting ready to release the doco. And someone brought me a cup of coffee, and I went, I feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
And then I went, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant.
I know what
And I knew straight away.
Yeah.
Wow. I just knew. And before even I got the positive test, I called Tristan. I was like, I'm telling you right now, I'm pregnant. And he's like, well, just wait. And then sure enough, 2 days later, I did a test, and I was pregnant with our third Tig, which was 18 months ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Congratulations.
He's 18 months.
Yeah.
He's a unit though.
Yeah, he's mad.
He has those shoulders that come forward and stuff. It's a proper Aussie baby.
Yeah, he's a real little.
As in get the hell away from me.
But to be brutally honest, like I always wanted 2. Third kind of wasn't really in the picture, but I mean, that baby wanted in.
He was ready to
he wanted
come
in.
down.
Yeah.
They've changed their lives, though.
Our third one was the same way.
Yeah.
She was determined. She's very purposeful in her life. She still is.
Is she?
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Totally. She's 16 now.
Amazing.
Oh gosh.
So sorry that you went through that with the miscarriages. We've experienced that as well and know the pain of what that's like. And I haven't seen your documentary, though. I watched the trailer for it this morning, and I was immediately in tears. I was like, oh my God.
It can be quite triggering, yeah.
So beautiful. And so thank you so much for creating something like that for all the women and their partners that go through
men
it.
too.
Yeah.
No, of course. Yeah, thank you. No, it's been, it was hard for Tristan and I. It was actually quite hard to get Tristan Tristan on board for a little while, because I think innately, you know, that whole process we went through, it was hard for us to even talk about. We didn't actually talk about what we were both feeling until we kind of were forced to on camera, and that was really tricky. So, but no, it's been an amazing ride, and I'm so thankful to everyone who contributed to that film, and I'm so thankful to Tristan, because it's so scary to open up on such a platform, and you don't know how people are going to react. But I think it was really important to have his perspective. Like you said, I think men need to also share what they're experiencing, because it's their loss just as much as yours.
How was that for you?
It was very difficult. It was very difficult because I'd never opened up about stuff before, not just with this. I've kind of come from that old school where you just kind of get out, things happen to people, and you just have to find a way to get through them. And I didn't know how to talk about it. I think that was a huge thing as well. And again, I knew how important it was for Tahyna, and I was trying to be as supportive as I could without kind of. I knew it was going to help an awful lot of people, and I knew a lot of people would kind of be coming towards Tahyna, and probably to myself as well, to kind of look for advice. And I wasn't ready to be able to do that, because I didn't know how to advise people. And Tahyna reassured me that it wasn't about that. It's not about advising people. It's just about putting something there that people can kind of look at and they kind of reflect on and hopefully speak to whoever they need to. But it brought us closer together. Yeah. A lot of it can bring you further away from each other as well at times, and we're very aware of that. Yeah. But I don't know how to speak about things, and Tahyna does, you know. So I think we learned an awful lot about each other through that experience as well. Because, like, I look back at it now, and it still kills me that I never grieved the loss of our first child either. You know, and it still hurts me now, like, you know. And it's kind of, I'm still not great at speaking about it, but it's something that I think that we needed, and I think a lot of people kind of needed to a degree as well. You know, so but like I said, that just adds to how proud I am of Tahyna and the way her brain works, and of our family as well. You know, and like I said, because our family's everything to us. Yeah,
we're very lucky.
Did you seek sort of any therapy or anything? Did anything like that help, or you had friends and support around you?
I did look for support, and I didn't find it as accessible at the time, which is part of the reason why I made the film. But certainly what helped me during that time was friends who had experienced loss. And because everyone has their own experience and their own ways of dealing with it. And so we never really sought therapy or anything like that, because in a very strange roundabout way, the film was our therapy. And we only just realized that once honestly, when we did that final interview, I was like, oh, I'm finally just realizing now that this was my way of honoring the loss, you know, because I was talking to women who were saying, oh, I bought some jewelry, or I got a tattoo, or I planted a flower garden. And I found all these ideas so beautiful, and I put them all in the film. And then I wrapped my film up and went, oh my goodness, I now really realize why I did this. So it was my way of closing that chapter. So that was kind of my therapy, I suppose.
It helped us with a lot of things in the sense that certainly I wouldn't address issues that I'm having with my friends or whatever, as much as your friends are your closest people, you know. But whenever there was a problem, or my friend saw a problem, their help to me would be to help you forget about it. And my help to them, my friends, like, oh, we'll go out and we'll do this and we'll forget about that, you know. And I think this made us, not just with this conversation, but other conversations and issues that we come up as husband and wife as well. You know, it's actually addressing these things and trying to figure out a way to get through them helps us more than people who are trying to help us forget about it.
That's right. Yeah. It's that fine line, isn't it, of like you being able to talk and release that, all of what's going on, and then have someone go, all right, now we can go out for that drink, or now we can go out for that. You know what I mean? Like let's not wallow, but let's also talk about it, because the talking is the first part of the healing, I always find.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love what you said then, Tahyna, about with you, mate, in terms of like weren't ready to speak. And it's not, you're not giving advice. So a nature for a lot of blokes is we need to fix it. You know, and so, no, I'm not going to advise you how to get through it, but I can tell you what my experience is and what feelings came up. And we learn more listening to that. I learn more from you when you're telling me how you're feeling about stuff, not trying to fix me or tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And what a wonderful example of we followed a Buddhist life path for quite a while, and I still take a lot from that world. But they often talk about turning poison into medicine, and here is this situation where you've gone through, which we understand at a very deep level, with miscarriage and losing babies early, that it's hard, and you've created this beautiful thing for people to watch and go, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
No,
So
thank you.
well done.
Thank you. And I'm sorry you guys had to experience that too. It's a hard thing to go through.
Yeah. And at the same time, thanks. And at the same time, it brought us closer together.
did.
I remember when we were in the hospital and I was going through that DNC thing, and it was just like this contraption, like an archaic sort of a device that was awful. And I remember just going, wow, this is the first time I've actually really felt like I was caring for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I was of use.
Yeah.
Helpless,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And we all have the same thing. It's like, well, what can we do to make this easier? And you can't. Like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of that fear that, like, right, what's the right thing to say, or what's the right thing to do, or
And
we're all
sometimes
just
there's
trying
no
to figure
answer,
stuff
yeah.
out, isn't it? And people will go through similar experiences, but the impact that experience has on your singular life is very different to the next person.
So what was the right thing to say? What was the right thing to do at that for you guys?
I think for us it was literally like what you were saying, is just talking about it. Honestly, there was no right or wrong because we didn't know. Like, there was nothing, especially that first loss, both of us just shut down. And, that was probably not the right thing to do, but Tristan was secretly blaming himself and going through all these guilty feelings, and I was doing that as well on my end. So I think that the first thing was just to openly talk about it. And, I've learned a lot since making the film, and I've, speaking to other women, and, I just feel as though the fact that the conversation is opened is already a huge thing.
I think the people you want to be there for, just knowing that they are there, you don't have to tell them you're there, but it's kind of like, right, whatever you need.
Yeah, it's just
Give it to
acknowledging.
me, and and we're going through this together, and we're gonna get through this together. But there's no one else I'd want to try and get through it with.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, it's not. I guess there's that fear that as soon as you talk about it, you're going to be great, and you might not be great.
Yeah.
But at least you're trying, you're attempting to get through
Yeah.
it, and you might find something somewhere that kind of helps.
Yeah.
And something isn't going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these are people we choose to be with. And we kind of, whatever is going to make this work, well, then we want to try that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it probably doesn't, but
No, it absolutely does.
We are very good friends with Deborah Lee.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, who I know was in your documentary.
Yes.
And we travelled a lot of those miscarriages that she went through. And she obviously decided to adopt her two beautiful children. Was that ever on the cards for both of you? Did you ever feel at some point that might be the way you'd choose?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did discuss it. We started the paperwork just before I fell pregnant with Oisin. So after I had experienced another two losses, we had someone come to the house and talk to us about the whole adoption process.
and not because of the losses. This is just something that we talked about
we spoke
before.
about even before starting a family that maybe that would be an option. And always for us is we come from really loving families. My parents are not together, but I feel like still very supported. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I've never.
that's good. That's
yeah,
good.
exactly. Like
Yeah,
really
very positive.
wonderful family unit.
Yeah.
So we that was always part of our plan. But yeah, it's actually it's a lot more difficult than I had anticipated.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
is a shame.
Yeah.
It is a shame.
Yeah.
I know.
There's regulations there, and rightly so. When you hear some
Yeah.
stories, and it's kind of, you kind of go, we're good people.
Yeah.
We're just trying to give a home to someone who doesn't have one,
Yeah.
and kind of and add to our lives as much as we want to add to their lives. But yeah, we had people over to do the checks on the house. Look, if you're gonna even consider this needs to be fixed. This needs safety issues, of course. But then, I guess it's part of it. If you fall pregnant within a certain amount of time, they don't put your application on hold. They just throw it out the window.
Yeah. So
Again,
and I think
stuff that we
your
didn't know.
youngest has to be 2 years old.
Yeah.
So we did look at it again, but I had fallen pregnant with Tig, and it's quite busy now with
Yeah.
3 at the moment. So we're just
Oh, for sure.
we'll
yeah.
we'll see how the next chapter goes. But yeah.
Tahyna, you mentioned briefly you come from a loving family, and I did read this on your Instagram. Can you just talk about your grandparents and that incredible story?
Yes. So my Oma and Opa from the Dutch side of the family, and this is sort of super bittersweet because the family house was just left yesterday to go onto the market. So it's like, sort of heartbreaking. But
Where is that house?
In Cronulla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
Right.
on Ganamata Bay. So my grandparents are originally from Holland. They had moved to Parkes, and that's where they had my mum and her sisters. But prior to that, they were traveling circus folk. My grandfather was on the run he had derailed a Nazi train and had escaped, and
Escaped the prisoner camp. Didn't he?
yeah,
In
he
Holland.
escaped a prisoner camp, and
It's a movie.
it's a total movie.
Total.
I
And
know.
you'd be able to do it.
I know. I'm so.
Right?
That's not real.
Yeah.
And it's just your grandparent. Like, you know
Yeah.
these people.
Yeah, I've actually got him on tape talking about it, and while he was on the run, he had famously stopped at a circus called Circus Rhines, which is still going. It's a very famous circus, but originally was owned by my great grandfather, and my grandmother was a trapeze artist. So my grandfather fell in love with her and worked his way up through the circus to do the trapeze acts with
her.
Yeah. And then,
good.
oddly enough, so Michael Gracie, who had directed The Greatest Showman, is very good friends with my sister. And my sister was telling him this story one day, and he was like, I really want to talk with them because I'm working on this circus film, which ended up being The Greatest Showman. And so they were sort of the base inspiration for the Zendaya and Zac Efron relationship love story. Yeah, so it's all sort of like this weird. So no one has taken my grandparents' story, but they have taken excerpts from it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's the whole Nazi and the train thing, and
It's
and
wild.
imagine the first meeting when I can just cinematically see it. He's walked in, and there she is doing her thing,
I know.
on
And
the trapeze.
I just, I think, their story, and that's the thing when you have like family, it's just when you start talking to them, like even my Italian side as well, they've got interesting stories, and you just kind of get to learn. You kind of got so much rich history within your own family, and I mean, you have that with your Irish relatives too. And Tristan's dad was in the army, and like
Tina's grandparents are on a different level. I'll sit down and speak to Tina's grandfather for like half an hour. He doesn't speak a word of English, and I don't speak any Italian. So I just sit there and we just nod at each other for the whole time, and he'd be talking about it. I was like, yeah. And then Antoine, of course, and the Dutch grandfather as well. Like, because I was lucky enough that I got to meet
Yeah.
Tina's
before they
grandparents.
passed,
Yeah, I met Tina's 4 grandparents. And they're all they're really all fantastic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they've all passed now, but that's still part of our life.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids absolutely love it as well.
and it's funny because particularly my daughter and probably Ty, they've got that showman thing. They're like blood. Like our middle child's not so into the spotlight, but the other two love the spotlight. So I was like, oh, they've got circus blood in them.
Yeah,
And they embrace me as well, the two
Yeah.
grandfathers, because they're real manly men, and they kind
Yeah,
of
very
embraced
old
me when
school.
I came over, and they really were fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
you slide past them on your knees doing the double horn thing.
Yeah, shut up.
That's
Yeah.
a double A, Here, I
Yeah.
shake my booty in front of you.
Well, they
Cape over them.
Yeah.
my grandfather, because
You would have
again,
loved that, wouldn't they?
oh yeah, to have someone dance, because also in Cronulla there's not many men who dance in the Shire.
right.
So when my grandfather knew that I was dating a dancer, he thought that was just so wonderful because he's it's sort of
You used to call me a
surprise.
ballerina. You used to think I was a
He said no,
ballerina.
and I would say no. But
And he'd meet, because he works in, he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
And he worked in a little studio in was it
Cogra.
Randwick? In Cogra, sorry. And he'd always bring his Italian mates over, and obviously I wouldn't know what he'd be saying, but he'd be talking to me and he'd just go ballerina, and then they'd all point at me and he'd go ballerina. I was like, I'm not a ballerina.
Just moving to the kids and parenting, you're working. You're on Studio 10 5 days a week, so I imagine you have to leave the house fairly early, and you're Tina, you still involved in production and doing all that sort of business?
I'm very fortunate I can do it from home, though.
Okay.
So,
So how do you handle it, mate? Because you've got to be on the job, on the ball. You're doing live TV.
Well, it is. I mean, it is very difficult. And it, certainly at the start, I was quite selfish in that I kind of, still the same as that, the provider mentality that we have, and you kind of, for a long time, I kind of forgot Tahyna has a very strong career of her own that she wants to kind of push forward, but it was kind of almost horses for courses kind of thing. I was like, this is a moment in time, and now we kind of have to grab everything as much as we can so we can have this life that we live. And I got very lucky that Studio 10 came up. Before then, I had Dancing with the Stars, which, like every show, when it's seasonal, you don't know if you're coming back or not.
Yeah.
So there's that fear all the time. So I started working on a show called Mrs. Brown's Boys, which is an Irish comedy show. And they were great in giving me a job.
Was that in Ireland?
Well, it was in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
So that was the thing. Yeah. So I'd have to fly over to Scotland, and they were very accommodating. One of my favourite jobs I've ever had, and I only left it because of Dancing with the Stars. But we had to. I'd be over there for maybe 5 or 6 weeks at a time. So I'd be 5 or 6 weeks away from Tahyna and for Echo at the time, and it's trying to balance that up. So I was like, well, do you want to go away for 6 weeks, or do you want to kind of be away for the 5 or 6 hours in the morning and then come back? We're still trying to find that balance, and we're still trying to find ourselves again, which is a huge big thing as well, because obviously you want to give the kids everything, and you can, it's always funny trying to explain this, but you kind of lose so much of yourself as well. And we're trying to find that balance now. I'm lucky that I don't get to bring the kids to school, but I get to pick them up, and we get to put them to bed, and we get to I mean, that's huge. We get to have dinner together again, which is a luxury that we didn't have before.
I think that's the important thing, is you look at what you get to have.
Yeah.
yes.
Because if you're looking at what you're missing, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And that's, I've spent a lot of time out on locations and doing stuff, and especially when the kids were young, and it was a really easy trap for me to fall into, is these, look, I'm missing this, I'm missing that, or Ali would ring me and go, the kids did this today. I'd be like, oh man,
Yeah.
But when you get to that, flip it and you go, okay, what do I have? What do I get to do today with those kids? It makes a difference. So,
well, perspective in anything is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, but like I said, I'm very guilty of falling into that. Right, well, this is what I need to do for a family, as opposed to, well, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And we're still trying to find that balance of who we are as individuals, and who we are as a couple, and who we are as parents. Yeah. And like, that's a struggle that everyone has, isn't it? Just trying to find the balance through all that. Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It always comes back to the original thing. It's like, well, do you want to do it with me, or do you want to do it without me?
Yeah.
And it's always with you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
And it's so funny too, because, and what I was saying about chapters before, because the babies bring something when they're babies, and then they're at daycare, and then there's school, and that brings a whole other thing in the ball game. And then, I speak to, our neighbours, for example, when we moved in, they had a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and now they're grown
driving.
adults. They're driving, and you see the shift and the changes within 6 years. So, and they're going through their, now they're raising teenagers. So I know that these chapters happen, and, for us, and I don't know, for me anyway, this year has been all about, certainly from my perspective, I'm like, wow, I'm really realizing that we only have this one shot here. Like, we only have this one life. I really want to make it count, and I really want to do everything and be everything. And it's tricky. It doesn't come without its hard days, but we just give it our all and hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, we're just kids of a different age, isn't it? Trying to figure stuff out as well. It's kind of, but yeah, it's definitely trying to find out how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of, you sacrifice this, you sacrifice that, but that's what life is, isn't it? We're trying to figure it out. And right now, like I said, we're just trying to find that balance, and we're trying to find us again.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, because you don't see that going, because your focus is on, we need to give the kids everything, and then you give the kids more than everything.
Yeah.
And they're not figuring it out for themselves, and then you're left with, what do we do, Rumi? Or kind of, when are we going to start lying beside each other again?
So, you probably do the same thing. If we would get a date night, we'd go, first 2 hours, all we do is talk about the children, and then we'd go, God, that's all we've done. We've talked about the kids the whole time that we've been out together. So we give ourselves a time limit and go, all right, let's clear the decks. What do we need to talk about with the kids? Yeah. And now we can talk about us.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that you're so in that mode of children.
Absolutely.
It's hard to sort of shift out of that. that and go back to the me time again as a couple.
Yeah, and it's so funny because a lot of couples that we speak to are going through the exact same
Yes.
thing, and I'm always asking, I'm like, what? So what's the secret, or what do And they're like, don't know. We're just we're just trying to figure it out too. So I think, and that's good. That's a good place to be because at least everyone's open to kind of taking it. Well, my biggest thing is take it day by day, especially when they're so little. Like
Yes, yeah.
little kids is we can't control it at all.
What would be the best thing that you could hope for your children to inherit from you both?
That's a
Tricky
tough
one because we're pretty self-critical, aren't we?
but there's nothing wrong with that though either. I mean, look at you want good kids.
Yeah.
In the sense that they kind of have a moral compass about things, and that's kind of that doesn't change based on the stuff that they get themselves involved in, because unfortunately we live in a very influential world right now, and parents can only do so much as well, But I guess there's core values that you want to instill in them that my parents instilled in me, but I still went rullia for a while, like, you know what I mean? There's certain things that I'm kind of embarrassed about that I've done in my life and stuff. You kind of look back and you go, "Jeez, I hope people don't find out about
video
that
footage of this?
Probably,
There's
yeah.
I found a great video the other day.
That was a good one, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, but it's funny you
Stick it up on TikTok.
seriously.
Put a little filter on it.
I
We
know.
need this.
See what happens. But it's so funny. I'm really struggling. I don't know if you've ever had this, but I'm really struggling with not trying to put my issues on my kids. Like I've really realized, especially with our daughter, I demand so much from her, and I really notice because I'm innately a people pleaser, and my daughter is not. She doesn't care. I'm like, no. You like, you got to make sure everyone's happy. She's like, no, I'm not. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do my thing, and I've got to be really mindful that I'm not like, no, be like me. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really tricky and that I'm really struggling with that. I'm not going to lie. It's been tricky.
I think that's the greatest gift that we can give our kids is to take care of our own stuff
Yeah.
and not impose it on them, to allow them the freedom to be who they are.
Who they are.
And you're right. I mean, it's been a massive challenge for us. Our kids are, our eldest is 26 and our youngest is 16.
Yeah.
And we all, look, the thing is we're human and we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's all right.
Yes.
As long as you catch yourself and go, okay, well, next time I'll do better.
Yes.
And follow through with that. Because they don't listen to what we say, but they bloody hell take so much, pay attention to what we do.
Yes.
So to your point before about, Tristan, they watch us and they copy us. So if we're living our best lives then and being kind, and which Alison is the kindest person and the most celebrated doormat, or the I'm pulling something out of her book. So she wrote it. It wasn't mine. Okay? But she's worked her ass off to change that so that the kids don't become like that.
Yeah.
It's hard not to be hypocritical as a parent as well. And it's kind of this. There's certain things when you see something happen, you kind of like, maybe right now isn't the time to address it, even though it's just happened now.
Yeah.
There's plenty of learning to get on, and kind of you don't want your kids to make mistakes, but if they don't make them mistakes, well then, I mean, we don't need another me, or we don't need another you. Your kids need what you need from your parent. It's not look, someone's going to be there for you if you fall, and someone's going to help you get through it. Not get you through it, but help you.
Yeah. And they're here for their own reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I remember finally realizing, because I always felt the same way, Tahyna. I was like, I want them to grow up without any issues that I passed on to them. I don't want to have any issues with my kids. And then I realized one day, I was like, look, I got major issues from my parents, and I got all my own issues from just living my life. Mm-hmm. And that's been my greatest lessons and how I've learned to grow from those issues. So it's like, so for whatever they've got, they will learn to grow from that. So once I sort of realized that, look, if they've got a bit of this and a bit of that from me or from you, that's not like the best of us. There's therapy out there for them. And now we're actually having conversation, which is wild that, with our 26 and 22-year-old, we're actually having conversations with them about what didn't work with our parenting.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have been brought to my knees at times apologizing, just saying, I am so sorry. I did not realize how that would affect you.
Yeah.
And it's been really beautiful to actually have that experience with them. So it's all good. It all
Oh, totally. And
comes
I
out
feel
in the
that, I
wash.
feel the same like you. Like I have issues with the way certain things in my life too. But I think once you have kids of your own, you realize everyone's just human.
Yeah.
My mum, my dad, they're just humans. They're
do
just
the best they
they're
could.
trying their best.
That's
Yeah.
it. We parent very different. I imagine you guys do too as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, what I take from that is that you've got confident kids who can articulate how they're feeling, and you can and you're not afraid to address it because it's very confronting.
Yeah.
You just want your kids to be better than you are.
Yeah.
However that
if
is.
you make space for them to do it. Like one of the great memories I have was when we were moving. We were in the process of moving from LA to Sydney, and I took the family away. We got a big bus, and we went to the Grand Canyon. So come on, we're all going to the Grand Canyon if we haven't been there. And I was on the way back, and Elle, and we're driving into the western sun. Right, we're heading back from the Grand. We're heading west, and we're going, and we've got this big 35-foot van with a massive windscreen, and the kids are lying on the floor between us in our big comfy chairs as we're driving this thing. And Elle said to them, "How do you feel about moving to Australia? What are your thoughts?" And the conversation went on for 2 or 3 hours, and making cups of tea and coming back, and it was the best thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just she made space for them to have all their feelings, and we arrived back in LA and we're like, okay, we're ready to go
Fab. That's so great.
because it was an emotional move.
Yeah.
It was a big thing.
I
to
can
move
only
after all those
imagine.
years.
Yeah.
And they feel important then because their input is taken. Our daughter, that would be a very short conversation for us. Our daughter would be like, yep, want to move there. And then she'd cry about the fact that she hasn't lived there before then. I really miss not living there. That's what our daughter's gone through a phase of.
So looking to the future, are you guys are you list makers? Do you make plans? Where would you see yourselves in 5 years? How do you make that work?
Tana's listening.
I was looking at you going, I'm very much a planner. I like goals. I like,
Okay.
I'm ambitious like that.
Well, you're a producer, Dan.
Yeah. A little bit too, I'm frustratingly annoying like that. And I know that's something I'm working on. But Tristan's very much a present person, we'll go with, which is why, our marriage has been working. And it's sort of been, I guess we complement each other in the sense of you've never been someone
You can say whatever you want.
You've never wanted to plan.
You're not in trouble no matter what you say here.
You've never wanted to plan, but it's always worked out. Like everything's always worked out. So, but I think for us is, we're sort of short term at the moment because we just want to get to the point where we've got Tig toilet trained. And then we're like, just get to that point. And then we're good. So, but yeah, I mean, we have goals as individuals and as a family, I think as well. We've sort of got ideas of, what we want and build the house, rebuild the house, a couple of things.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like I said, we've kind of got the start of a new goal and kind of, I don't want to say fall in love again, but we're getting to know each other, who we are now compared to how we were when we got married 8 years ago. Kind of
Yeah, that's one thing I guess, because we've been together 10 years now and you really realise how
I did
much...
get that right, sorry. We were married 8 years, but together 10 years.
But you really realise how, if I look at my 26-year-old self, I'm like, I don't recognise that girl. I don't recognise her at all. Like, it's just so crazy what experience has done to the both of us. And so, that's been interesting. And I think, kids has got a big role to play in just the change of mentality. And like I was going, I don't know why this year I'm like, YOLO, everything is like YOLO. Get up and sing, Tristan. Do this, do that. I'm like, it's just madness. I don't know what.
We have friend circles and stuff as well. Like, we all kind of have like, I suppose, a jigsaw of some sort. Like, you know what I mean? I've already got these parts. So we don't need to be the same person.
Yeah.
We just need to be someone you want to be around, and maybe we can fill the rest of the holes with other people that we want to be around.
Yeah.
People who inspire us, and we certainly would have inspired each other an awful lot when we met first.
Yeah.
Maybe in different places we don't inspire each other as much anymore.
Yeah.
And it's trying to find that again, and that could be a reflection on yourself as well. But again, it always comes back to that thing. We don't want to do it together. We want to do it away from each other.
Yeah.
What do you miss about each other when you are apart?
I think just for me, it's just the support, you know, like Tristan is probably the most supportive, the best foundation person I've ever come across. He's just so wonderful and he's so present. And that's one thing that I'm not. I'm not a present person. I'm always looking forward or backwards, and that's one thing I miss about Tristan when he's away, is that just he brings everything back to this moment right now. Yeah.
But I feel like that way as well, and I feel as though Tahyna is very present, certainly when we're with each other, you know, and kind of I still have that kind of where I go off the rails a couple of times, like, you know what I mean, and Tahyna grounds me an awful lot.
Isn't that funny that we both say the same thing, but we both feel like we're the opposite? That's
but again, I think like I said, from Tahyna, it still inspires me in that sense about who I want to become, because we're always kind of growing, aren't we? And we kind of, like I said, you veer off here and there all the time, like, you know. But again, you kind of there's so many attributes about Tahyna that I would like to better within myself, you know, and kind of and she's like, Tahyna's like an alibi for me as well, like, you know. She saves me an awful lot. She saves me an awful lot, but again, I love her, like, you know what I mean, and that's why
I can relate to that.
but I couldn't think of a better role model for our kids.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's
so
kind of and that's everything. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of
the same.
It's the same. You don't know how much space your heart has until it's kind of full. Like, you know, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger every time. And that's what that is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Would you work together? Could you work together? Because you're both creative.
We've done a few, like I've actually done a couple of shows with Tristan, a couple of episodes sitting on the couch with him on Studio 10, which has been really interesting. We've done a few things together. I think the reason why it's been great is because we've been creative but haven't done stuff together.
Yeah.
Like, we're just always in each other's corner cheering each other on as loud as possible, but we haven't dived in together. And I don't know if we necessarily want that, maybe. I don't know. Like,
No, I don't want that.
No.
No, but in the nicest possible way. Because again, we kind of, like I said, we can't be there 24/7.
Yeah,
you know, as much as everyone says it's great, you want to, and you do, but you still need
identity.
We need to talk to
outside
different
of,
adults during the day.
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of need to do different things to kind of appreciate everything. And like I said, I love Tahyna, of course, but I don't want to be with her 24/7. You know, and she doesn't want to be with me 7/24 or whatever way you want to do that one. You know, but it's one of those ones. You know, so it's kind of, this is great and this is going to be great, but 24 hours a day, this isn't going to be great anymore.
Yeah. So I always thought the secret sauce for my music career was a duet with Alison, but, you know, to sing. But
then you heard me sing and you went, that will never happen.
Alison's face just then was like...
Exactly. And speaking of singing, this is where we're going to. We're going into the shower now.
Oh.
We've only got 2 questions.
Yeah. We do we do our 2-minute shower, so we keep our answers short. But since we've got 2 questions, because we buried some of them into the chat. We'd like you both to answer these in your own space, on your own lane. What the world needs more of is.
Can I say love?
You can.
Say it. Do you mean it?
What does the world need more of?
Understanding, I would suppose.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of, I mean, it's very easy to say, like, in a world of kind of censoring, I just think people need to be able to talk, and you need to have a better argument of why it's a problem, as opposed to just shutting people out. And I think there's too much of that. I think words can be very dangerous, of course, but I think unless you address the words that people have, whether you like them or not, I think there needs to be more of that. We need to be able to challenge things as opposed to just censoring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I'd actually say empathy probably. I think
love as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just think people need to sort of understand that everyone's human. People make mistakes, and I just think there's no empathy at the moment.
Yep. Last question. Can you describe each other in one word?
Let me think.
I was going to say perfect, but I'm going to wait now.
Let's see what she says.
No, I would perfect to my. No, I was one word would just honestly wonderful.
Oh.
Yeah. Go on, you can say perfect.
I mean, I suppose inspiring, You know, that's kind of a huge thing. Like I said, there's so much about Tahyna that I really love. It's hard to do that one word thing because I'm going to hear about it in the car on the way home then as well. What did you say?
One word to describe Tristan: hungry.
Yeah. I suppose, like, I'd say everything. Everything is probably the word that would describe it the most.
That's beautiful. No one said everything before.
Yeah,
That's a new one.
or hungry.
No, either of those are new.
I'm actually verging on hangry.
Exactly.
Tahyna and Tristan, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we really wanted to dive in with you, and you've been really kind and generous. So thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
you guys. You guys, awesome.
Lovely people. And really generous and kind with their information that they were willing to share.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
If you've not seen the documentary that Tahyna made, Misunderstandings of Miscarriage, it's such a beautiful piece of art, really, and it's just it speaks volumes to who she is, that she would want to put that kind of information out of feeling that own, having that own tragedy within their relationship. So. Yeah, so lovely.
Good
Just
stuff.
Beautiful couple.
Yep, Tristan, of course, you can see him every morning on Channel 10, Studio 10.
Yeah.
Good luck understanding every word he's saying.
Oh,
Sometimes I'm like, hey, what did he say? My heart. When he talks about his heart, the capacity for the heart.
And his the army.
Right,
The army. I love
so
it.
great.
It's the best
I
accent.
know you were getting fired up. You like the Irish boys.
I love the
you
Irish
like the
boys.
Irish boys. What a wonderful couple for our last chat.
Absolutely.
For the year. We'll do a couple of episodes of just us two hanging out, having a chat before the end of the year, and then we'll open up the bathroom again in 2023 with more great conversations with great guests. In the meantime, we're here right now, and thank you for being with us.
Thanks for listening.